Judge, tell us a little bit about the transition from being a trial judge to an appellate judge, from the district bench to the United States Court of Appeals.
Well, actually, the transition wasn't all that difficult because through the years I had sat on the Court of Appeals as a visiting judge. You know, that's not uncommon for district judges to be asked to sit with them from time to time as they have a little vacancy of some sort. But and I had sat with other courts of appeals by invitation. So I've forgotten what the question was.
Yeah. Well, I was asking about the transition from the district bench to the appellate bench.
Well, the transition was not very difficult because, as I say, I already sat with them and with other courts of appeals, so it was no problem.
You were an appellate judge for how many years before you retired?
From 79 till last year.
And did you enjoy that experience as compared to being a trial judge, or did you miss the trial bench?
Well, I think the trial court is a much more interesting court to preside over. I just, maybe it's because of me, but to me it's a much more interesting job. And as I may have said earlier, when I took the job at the Court of Appeals, I thought, well, at the age you are, and you'll never get another chance, you better go on and do it while you can. I was actually doubtful that I would like the job as much, but I did it anyway. And it turned out I didn't like the job as much, although I didn't dislike it either. I can't say that. But it's just not, to me, as interesting a job as being on a district court.
What were some of the things you missed about being a district court judge?
Well, just trying cases, hearing witnesses testify, being involved in what district judges do. After all, when you're on the Court of Appeals, all you do is go up to Cincinnati and sit there with two other judges and listen to these appellate arguments. Then you go back into conference and decide between the three of you what you're going to do with the appeal. And then one of you gets it to write, and you go home and write it and then send it off to them. If they agree with it, then that becomes the opinion of the court. But that, to me, is not as interesting a process as to hearing trying cases with or without a jury. And but some people feel just, I think, I mentioned Harry, I think, likes it better.
Harry Welford, Judge Welford.
Harry Welford, yeah. He's a very highly intelligent, competent lawyer, but he likes it better. And maybe that's the reason he does like it better, because it's a more intellectual pursuit to try the cases.
I've heard some lawyers who went on to be appellate judges say that it's a lonelier life being an appellate judge as opposed to a trial judge.
Well, that's right, because if you're a district judge, you got some people doing the same work you're doing right down the hall from you to have lunch with and all like that. Got about 4 of them in the building now, whereas in the Court of Appeals, you're by yourself where you are, unless you happen to be maybe in some town, big town place where they got more than one circuit judge that happens to live there.
Tell us about some of your law clerks over the years.
Well, I've had a lot of them. I've had a lot of them. And you try to pick good ones, and not only good ones, I mean competent ones, but it'd be pleasant to work with. That's kind of hard to determine before they actually come to work for you. But I've had a lot of law clerks.
How would you go about selecting your law clerks?
Well, you get applications and you interview them, and you based on that interview and anything they're able to furnish you with, like recommendations from other people, from the kind of grades they got in law school. If they usually tell you if they got real good grades, but
did you hire anyone except for Harvard law grads?
Did I hire anybody?
Did you hire anybody except for Harvard law grads?
I was trying to think. I don't know that I ever had another one from Harvard. I got them from all over, from the West Coast to the East Coast, but I don't know whether I ever got a law clerk from the Harvard Law School.
Do you recall who your first law clerk was in 1961?
Yeah, Rowlett Scott.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. who practices.
Rowlett went to Yale College and Yale Law School.
Rowlett is still practicing here in Memphis?
Yeah, with Armstrong, on fire. Yeah, Rowlett's a very good law clerk. And then Charlie Newman was my third law clerk.
And he went on to be one of the lawyers in the Overton Park case.
Yes, he did. He was, Charlie was he went to Yale College and Yale Law School too. I was getting surrounded by Yale's there for a while.
What were the qualities you looked for in a law clerk? What were you looking for?
Well, I wanted him to be intellectually energetic, and I hope he's smart. And of course, they've all been exposed to good education. And you hope he's agreeable, enjoy having lunch with him, that kind of thing.
Did you enjoy having your former clerks practice in front of you?
Well, yeah, if there was no concrete reason why they shouldn't. For example, Charlie was in on the Overton Park case, but by the time he did that, that was a long time he had left me, and nothing involved in Overton Park had ever been before me while he was a law clerk. I couldn't have had him represent the Overton Park before me, but the Overton Park case. But yeah, I never had much of a problem with that. I won't say that all my law clerks were extra good. I had 2 or 3 dodos along the line, maybe a few more than that. But generally, I was fortunate enough in having really good law clerks. And it's very important, because it makes your job a lot less difficult if you have really good help. Of course, in the Court of Appeals, I think you're entitled to 3 now, 3 law clerks. And a district judge is entitled to 2, right? I never had but 1 law clerk as a district judge. I never had more than 2 on the Court of Appeals, as I remember it.
You obviously saw a lot of lawyers come before you as trial lawyers and appellate advocates. Over the years. What are the qualities that you found in the really good lawyers that were in front of you?
Well, the main quality, I guess you say, is it just being smart, and smart in the kind of way that helps you in law, in what lawyers do. And take, for example, my son, who is a software engineer type. He probably wouldn't be worth a nickel as a lawyer or a judge, but he's expert at that. So it all depends on what kind of smarts you have.
What do you think the smarts are for a lawyer? Can you define that? Well,
it's an analytical process, but it's not pure science. You got to some extent blend in your intellectual process with some common sense. Although you can't let your common sense override the law, sometimes the law is sort of this way or that way, very close, and so your common sense can come into play on which way you're going to go. Does that make any sense?
Sure.
I guess so.
You were a trial lawyer from 1946 to 61, and then on the bench from 61 until last year in one capacity or another. What are the major changes you've witnessed during your career in terms of the legal profession?
Well, for one thing, they're making a lot more money than they were when I was a lawyer, I'll tell you that. And I guess it tends to be more specialized. If fewer and fewer lawyers that just do anything, which tended to be true when I was practicing law. If a man came in and wanted to hire me to do something that was legal work, I'd do it. Although I may not have had too much experience in it up to that time, but I just think lawyers are much more specialized now than they were when I was practicing. And not to say that some don't do almost anything and walk in the door, but I think generally they're much more specialized.
If a young man or woman came to you today and say a college student at the University of Michigan and ask you for your advice on pursuing a legal career, what advice would you give them?
Well, I'd say that if you think, from your experience so far, leads you to believe that you've got sort of an analytical type mind, and therefore that you could do what lawyers should be able to do, then it'd be great. But if you didn't have that kind of ability, although you might have great ability in other things, the law is not the right business for you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Judge, do you have any opinions about, there's a lot of emphasis these days on mediating cases or pursuing some alternative dispute resolution rather than trying cases. Do you have any feelings about that?
Well, not specifically. I have an overall, what you might call a gut feeling that I'm happy to see it going on, because it takes a little of the burden away from the judges, and the federal courts are already so big now, and they're getting bigger all the time, and that's true, I guess, of state courts. So it takes some burden off the courts, and wouldn't be against that.
Mm-hmm. Well, Judge Brown, you've had a remarkable career, and looking back on it, how would you like to be remembered?
Well, that right or wrong, that I was doing what I honestly thought was right, and that actually I was right a pretty high percentage of the time.
Well, Judge Brown, I think there's no arguing over the fact that that's the way you're going to be remembered. And
well, I hope so. I hope so. I like to get together with those old lawyers that I eat breakfast with on Friday mornings and talk about it. And I kind of keep up with what's going on, because Manea and Pruitt still go to their offices, and I enjoy it. They keep me up with what's kind of going on.
Your group, tell us who's in your group that you have breakfast with on Friday mornings.
Well, Tom Pruitt from the Armstrong firm, Manea from what's the name of the firm he's with? Waring Cox.
Waring Cox, sure.
Yeah, and Billy Foles is an ex-state circuit judge. Well, he was on the Supreme Court of Tennessee too. Billy Foles. Ron Waring, I think, is completely retired now. He was with the Waring Cox firm, of course, for years. And we got one fellow in the group who's not even a lawyer. And of course, who was the lawyer we're talking about that's gone to Colorado, got married and gone to Colorado?
Hal Gerber.
Old Hal used to be a regular, but he doesn't sit with us anymore. He was really a nice guy. We really miss him. And he was an excellent trial lawyer. He performed some in front of me back when I was trying cases. He's been around quite a while.
Well, Judge Brown, thank you so much. This has been very, very enjoyable.
Well, thank you. I was honored to be asked, and I felt awfully concerned about pontificating about the Overton Park case, because it was a very difficult case, and I never was sure whether I was right or wrong, and I'm not sure whether the legal basis for the decision, which resulted in my being overruled, was right or wrong. But it was by far the hardest case I ever had. There's no question about that.
Well, you've had an extraordinary career, and we very much appreciate you being with us today and sharing your memories with us. Thank you, Judge Brown. Thank you very much.
Well, you're more than welcome.